literally just in. Let's get some reaction. Liam's still here with us. And just looking at the reaction, Gerard Lyons, economist who you know well, Sir Mark Carney, former Governor of the Bank of England, saying it's not necessarily this plan for growth, it's how they presented it, how they failed to communicate it and prepare the markets.
I think that's right. You know, Liz Truss is an extremely clever, mathematically inclined woman. She knows her way around the national accounts. She was, by all accounts, a very effective Chief Secretary to the Treasury. That's number 2 to the Chancellor. And she made some good points. She, you know, as politicians do, placed the blame squarely with Vladimir Putin, even though UK inflation was at a 30-year high before the war in Ukraine. But clearly, the biggest measure that Kwasi Kwarteng took in this now ridiculously named mini-budget was the energy price cap. It's like an open check mark, as we've discussed. If the wholesale gas price goes to the moon, the government has to deliver capped energy for household and businesses. That is going to cost hundreds of billions of pounds.
And for 2 years.
For 2 years for households, as you rightly say, for 6 months for businesses, though that is under review. But if gas prices come down, and they have been coming down sharply in the last 3 or 4 weeks, then the energy price cap won't cost any money at all. But I think Gerard Lyons is right. I think Mark Carney is right to a degree that that top rate of tax change at a time when people are trying to make ends meet, it looked politically inept. It looked a bit tin-eared and indulgent by the right of the Conservative Party, and I think the markets felt this government, if it's going to get a kicking in the media, this is a moment to test out their resolve.
Can you answer a question on 2 things which matter to people's everyday lives? 1, are their pensions safe? And 2, what's going to happen to their mortgage rates and mortgage offers? OK, across the world, interest rates are going up. Mini-budget or no mini-budget, we were going to see big interest rate rises in the coming weeks, in the coming months, in the run-up to Christmas. That was always going to happen. That was nailed on. It may be that the Bank of England brings one of those interest rate rises forward if the currency is vulnerable, because, of course, a lower currency means we import more inflation, bigger cost of living squeeze. But interest rates were always going to go up, and that will continue. At the moment, in the money markets, the weight of opinion, with people placing bets with real money, suggests that interest rates, Bank of England interest rates, could peak at around 5.5% to 6%. Having said that, that Bank of England intervention yesterday has damped down those expectations because of for technical reasons. Now, in terms of pensions, I'm actually quite. I'm not entirely convinced at what the big wheel rolling investment bankers said to the Treasury yesterday, that pensions were in danger. I think that's a bit of a ruse, if I'm honest. I've seen many investment bankers try and scare ministers into doing things. And look, the financial markets, they love what happened yesterday because the Bank of England effectively started printing more money and it ends up in financial markets.
Well, the way they were trying to explain it was that going back to Northern Rock, that they were in danger of getting this sort of doom spiral, that things ran out of control, and therefore that's why they had to intervene. Yeah,
but they would say that, wouldn't they? Because, again, the financiers love what the Bank of England's done because it juices up equity markets. And makes them all wealthier because they own lots and lots of assets. Look, I'm not being completely cynical about this. There may be some danger. If you're already drawing your pension, there is no danger. And for now, at least, the bank... And indeed, if you're about to annuitise, I can explain that if you want. If you're about to annuitise your pensions, and many people are... I had 4 people ring me about it yesterday and email me. This is actually quite good, that interest rates,
because you get a higher return.
Because you get a better income for the rest of your life.
Yeah, just to ask you what you're sort of getting in terms of the vibes from the city and elsewhere about November, when this next fiscal event, as they so delicately call it now, whether it's minor or major, are you getting an indication that they are rethinking not necessarily what they'll do on tax, but how they actually introduce it and nuance it?
I certainly think the presentation will change. The 23rd of November is a date that the Treasury hadn't announced, but they did announce it, you know, when the financial market started getting a bit stroppy. That will be It's not a full budget. It's an autumn statement, which is like a budget, just at a different time of year. And there will be fully costed estimates from the Office for Budget Responsibility.
And that's the key, I guess, bearing in mind what people like Mel Strider said.
That's right. The Treasury Select Committee chair, who complained that the Office for Budget Responsibility, the Treasury watchdog, didn't do a full set of forecasts with the mini budget. But the question is, will the 23rd of November be soon enough, or will financial markets again try and put their fingers around the throats of ministers and try and force them to do certain things? It's an irony, as I've said before on your show, that there isn't a Monetary Policy Committee meeting in October. The next one is in November as well, so there's a big gap before the next kind of policy intervention. If the Bank of England did do an emergency interest rate rise, that would be an enormous move, a much bigger move than the rather technical intervention we saw yesterday.